Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention? We are about to begin our session, so please find a seat and make yourself comfortable. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Windri Handayani from Department of Biology, FMIPA UI. I will be your Master of Ceremony for this event. On behalf of organizer, we would like to extend our warm welcome to all the guests to the 7 MIPAtalk series season 2 2020 with the theme Improving Science in Indonesia. In this occasion, I would like to welcome our Honorable Dean of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Bapak Dede Jjuhana Ph.D., Honorable Vice Dean for Education, Research and Student Affairs of FMIPA UI, Bapak Dr. Jatna Budiawan, and our Honorable Manager of Research and Community Engagement, Bapak Dr. Dipo Aldila, Honorable Head of Department of Biology, Bapak Anom Bowolaksono Ph.D., Honorable Moderator, Professor Jatna Supriatna from Department of Biology, FMIPA UI, Honorable Speaker, Professor Dr. Bruce Albert, Science Envoy of President Obama, former President of National Academy of Science, and our Honorable Lecturer, guests, and ladies and gentlemen that have participated to this event. First of all, let's say thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has gave us guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy so we can attend and participate in this special occasion without any obstacles. Before we begin, it would be better if we pray first. Pray according to each religion and belief. Begin. Finish. In this afternoon, we will have several agenda. Today's agenda begin with the reading of the role of this event. Then it opened with the remarks from the head of Department of Biology FMIPA UI, Bapak Anom Bowolaksono PhD, and the Dean of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences Universitas Indonesia, Bapak Dede Djuhana PhD. And then will be followed by a photo session. And then Professor Jatna Supriatna will moderate today's event and also give introduction about improving science in Indonesia. After this, Prof. Dr. Bruce Albert will deliver the topic about improving science in Indonesia, followed by a question and answer session. And the end with the closing. The rules and the regulation during the event. Please turn your mobile phone in silent for the offline guests. And for the online guests, please turn off your microphone. And you can write down your question later during the talks in the chat box. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, I would like to invite Bapak Anom Bowolaksono PhD, Head of Department of Biology, to deliver his welcoming remarks. For Bapak Anom, we invite you to come to the stage. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, thank you for Pak Dipo and the team for hospitality this session. Then also thank you very much for Pak Dekan Dede Djuhana for today attends and will make opening remarks. And also thank you for Prof. Jatna and member of IP in here, so Pak Al-Hadi, Prof. Al-Hadi, and Pak Budiawan in here. And also thank you very much to Prof. Bruce Albert. Yeah, previous I said that this is the second time I meet you, and then for the first time in the 2013, yeah, when I'm as a member of the Kafli meeting at the Denpasar, Bali. Yeah, at the time I cannot believe it. I met the Jose. Yeah, mm, the author the author of the textbook that I bring every day, the books, yeah, for the sales textbooks, yeah, every day. Then at the time I meet, then not for this point, yeah. The point is what I want to pointing is uh, at the meeting there is some session, yeah. There is some session that of course including the biological synthetic biology, yeah, and then also for the biodiversity, yeah, and also the topic of the marine and the geothermal. But one thing that is very interesting for me at the time is the um, social networking for the science. Yeah. That at the time, one guy's that speaker from the MIT said that one social media, such kind of the Facebook and Instagram. At the time, Facebook and Instagram not so popular like now. Yeah, it's just from the beginning, but the guys from the MIT said that they will it will, yeah, become make an important role for the science. Then yeah, after 9 years later, yeah, almost 10 years now, I think yeah, we can see in the reality that Instagram and then the Facebook, yeah, and then another also for the Twitter, yeah, it is make an important role for the science. So I think the point is the social networking and then the yeah, for the science, it is the one thing that we should yeah, consider, and then yeah, to make more role, yeah, in the now in Indonesia also. From that meeting, yeah, I have some I got the point, yeah, that we should make more deeply about the biology, yeah, as as a department in Universitas Indonesia. Biology department should should answer the challenge, yeah, in the world. So that's why, yeah, for the topic the synthetic biology, for the precising drug, yeah, and then also the biodiversity and so on at the time. Now from the biology department of Universitas Indonesia answer with the 5 interest area that we built into the research group. Yeah, we have the research group in the biodiversity. We have the research group in the metabolomic, ecology, and then also for the molecular biology and microbiology. Then I think, yeah, the science. What I want to say is, during these years, yeah, almost I said that almost 10 years now. It is nice, yeah, when Professor Bruce Albert come again to Indonesia. I don't know, maybe you during the time of course you can went to back to Indonesia also again, yeah. But what I want to say is it is the second time that that I said that I can believe it. Yeah, I meet again Prof. Bruce Albert now. Then I think this is time nice to evaluate after 10 years after during this area, something like the uh, cohort study, yeah, in the medical study, so we can see the uh, journey of the science in Indonesia. Then I think this evening, yeah, we can see you and heard your insight, yeah, your scientific insight and so on, and also for our innovation, next innovation and something to sharing to us together. Okay. Last but not least, I just quote one quote from the Nobel laureates that 2002, yeah, that winning in the physiology and medical uh, for the study in genetic of the development and the program cell death, yeah, in the Caenorhabditis. Yeah, Caenorhabditis is one of the nematodes. This is Bob Howitz, yeah, and Bob Howitz said that quote that's we are all transient in the enterprise of discovery. So that talking with the science, yeah, we still, yeah, go and then there is no finish, yeah, not we cannot see the finish for the science. So today, this evening, I think we can heard many things from the Prof. Bruce Albert. Thank you and enjoy your workshop. Thank you, Prof. Bruce Albert.
Thank you, Bapak Anom Bowolaksono, for the wonderful remarks. For the next, we are pleased to invite Bapak Dede Djuhana, Ph.D., Dean of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, to deliver his opening remarks. For Pak Dede, kami
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all faculty leaders, MIPA, eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Bruce Albert, Professor Jatna Supriatna as moderator, colleagues and students of FMIPA UI, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to welcome to MIPAtalk. Yeah, this afternoon is a precious and honorable moment to offer my sincere appreciation to our distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Bruce Albert, former President of National Academy of Science, who is willingly accept to our invitation. Professor Albert will share his inspiring talk with us with the title Improving Science in Indonesia. Professor Albert has a lot of contribution to science, not only in the USA, but the world, as shown the lot of award science article as a book. His book title, we know this is popular, The Essential Cell Biology, has been used in many universities, including University of Indonesia, as the textbook to learn about the cell. This MIPAtalk series activity is a form of the commitment from Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science to increasing scientific insight in the various disciplines, especially science such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, geography, and geoscience. This activity will be held every 2 weeks with the latest topic in various disciplines. We hope that from this public lecture, fellow lecturer or student who are present, he can get the maximum benefit or maybe even open up the opportunities for further collaboration. Finally, we thank you all for coming. We thank from Bruce Albert for his willingness to fill this activity. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Bapak Dede Djuhana, for the insightful message. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will hold a photo session. For the Zoom participants, you can turn on your camera, and for the participants that attend in this room, we can take a photo session right now in the front of the stage. Okay. You can stand from your seat, and to all the participants, please stand up. We can take photo from the front of the stage. Thank you very much. You may take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's come to our main talk for today. Allow us to invite Professor Jatna Supriatna as moderator for today's talks, and Professor Bruce Albert to give his talk entitled Improving Science in Indonesia. For Prof. Jatna and Prof. Albert, we will invite you to come to the stage, and I hand it over to you to lead this talk session. Thank you.
Yes. Very good afternoon, Bapak Ibu sekalian, Bapak Dekan yang terhormat, Bapak Wakil Dekan yang terhormat, Bapak Ketua Departemen, Prof. Al-Hadi, Ibu Sari dari IP. Terima kasih Bapak-Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this very important dialogue discussion. Improving science in Indonesia. So we have a very important guest, Professor Bruce Albert from San Francisco University. He has, of course, a ton of experience in writing. The most important is the editor of the science. So you know where the science is, and also the the National Science Academy, NES, National Academy of Science. I'm sorry that, and also the Envoy of President Obama on science. So Pak Bruce is a very important a person, has been in Indonesia since, where was that? 2010. So it's already 12 years back and forth. Exactly. So yeah, 12, 10. So, but you know, he has a passion about Indonesia. He is really trying to improve what they call the Kafli frontier science. Since one of the alumni is Pa Anom, one of those alumni. I think I just returned from Jogja with Pa Bruce, attending this Kafli Frontier Science in Jogja for 1 week. So we have been discussing about what the science and uh, 25 from American scientists and 40 Indonesian scientists, and blending together we discussing about the science. So really happy that also I was participated full in Yogyakarta. So without further ado, I like to invite Professor Bruce Albert about what the need for science to be important in the Indonesian context after having been here for 10 years, and what progress in science after all.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I've been, I started from zero. I knew nothing about Indonesia. They put me science envoy to Indonesia, but I had to look on a map. Where's Indonesia? But it's been a wonderful experience. As I've told many people, it really all depended on the president of IPE, your academy, Sangat Marzuki, who guided me through many years and many visits to Indonesia to try to see whether the United States could help develop Indonesia and society through science. Both Sangat Marzuki and I are passionate believers that science is a critical part of any democratic society. I first learned about the word called scientific temper, unquote. Scientific temper was a word that was really introduced by the first Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Nehru, and I only discovered it when I made my first trip to India as Science Academy president. But I really believe passionately that a society that has citizens in it who are trained in science enough to respect logic and evidence and truth, that is essential for any democracy. And that was what Prime Minister Nehru said. He was passionate about this fact. He said India has so many different languages, so many different religions. Unless we have a scientific sort of basis, scientific temper for society, we can't have our democracy work, because people will not, listen to each other. They won't tolerate any differences, and that is true around the world. The United States is not doing very well right now with regard to a scientific temper. Our last president was quite destructive of a scientific temper. As a politician, he was trying to take advantage of the fact that people have a lot of emotions and exploit the fact that people naturally would tend to prefer people who are just like them. And we have this incredible history in the United States that, to me, is the only thing that's really unique about the United States, is that we're basically all immigrants. So everybody came together, the country. My grandparents came in 130 years ago, something like that. many immigrants still coming to the United States. And the one thing that I think United States has been very important for the United States, and it makes the United States an example for other places in the world, is how we treat immigrants and how we give them a chance in a merit-based system to be successful and become leaders of companies or universities. And that's what I hope we can continue to maintain. And the scientific spirit is very much part of that. Science is tolerant. We use evidence and logic to make judgments about ideas and people, not emotion. And it's been very disappointing to me and other scientists in the United States to see how social media and emotions have created so many problems. We have so many people in the United States who refuse to be vaccinated because they believe something they saw on social media. Like, Bill Gates has put microchips in the vaccines, and the microchips will control you after they've been injected to you. How many things are wrong with that? The microchip won't go through a needle. If we've had a microchip in your blood, it wouldn't do anything. I mean, it's just the craziest idea. And it has no basis in evidence. And anybody who has any kind of scientific, experience as a young child and the right kind of science education to insist on evidence and logic for what they believe would never believe that. But we've had such a horrible disillusioning experience for all the scientists in America to see how many Americans don't understand how to think as a scientist. And as a result, so many people have died from COVID that didn't need to die. We've had more than 1 million Americans die, so many of them because they wouldn't get vaccinated. So we all have to work together to make science more of a part of all our societies. I mean, you have a great democracy. Democracy can't work unless people are tolerant, unless they, if they believe in all the things they see in social media, you can tear the society apart. In the United States, a lot of the things that happen in our social media were created by the Russians, it turns out. It's just incredible how if you're not inoculated by thinking like a scientist as a young person, then you're really subject to be exploited by all those crazy things that are now happening in the world. Anyway, so that made us all even more passionate about the need for science. The big issue for Indonesia is how do you create a scientific enterprise that's merit-based and rewards the best young scientists and the best ideas. Every time I came the first time I came to Indonesia, I met with President Yudhoyono, and always said we want to be the innovation nation. They're still saying, want to be the innovation nation, but you can't be an innovation nation unless you invest in the scientists and support young scientists, especially to use their own ideas and create a science culture in the universities and in the society. So it's been very frustrating for Sankat Marzuki and I and many others to see that we really haven't been able to make the progress we were expecting. In 2012, part of our activity, cooperation with the United States as a science envoy and other countries, was to support a joint study about how science is funded in Indonesia. And there's a 68-page pamphlet written in Bahasa and English about, how should science be supported in Indonesia compared to how it's been supported in the past. And the major point made there is that you cannot expect science and innovation in Indonesia if you have a system where the money you get for science is for only 1 year, and you have to produce a publication that year in order to be funded for the next year. I can't imagine a worse way to get no results for your money because you can only do the things you already know. That's not science. You can't be innovative. So if you want to be an innovative nation, you cannot have a science funding system that allows no creativity and allows people not to try new things that are risky and that might fail. So part of what we did over the years working with Sengat Marzuki and others in Indonesia is create a movement to create a Indonesian science fund that would fund science for 3 years, not for 1 year, and would not insist that your budget be spent on exactly what you said you would spend it in when you applied, because if you're finding out anything, you have to be able to change what you're doing and exploit the new opportunities that happen because you found out something different or something new was invented and published by somebody else, and now you could do something really exciting. But of course, all of you who've had grants from the government with a 1 year funding, it doesn't allow you to do what you should be doing, which is taking risk and doing new things and trying to be innovative. It's just crazy to me that the top levels of the government keep on talking about making Indonesia an innovation nation, but they won't free up the scientists to do what they need to do. So, as I said this morning when we had a meeting at the Indonesian Academy of Sciences, IP, we did a major experiment. We put a lot of effort. The U.S. ambassador, the Australians, the World Bank, we all put a major amount of time and effort into trying to create a new system of funding for science in Indonesia. And, it has not worked. That experiment failed because nothing changed. So as a scientist, you don't want to do the same experiment over and over if it fails. So the challenge to us all, especially to you, because those of you who are in Indonesia, what's the next experiment to make the system better? There are lots of ideas. One thing, we need to give a much louder voice to the young scientists. That they represent the future, and of course there's ALMI, the Young Academy, is one way to make a louder voice for young scientists. The other thing that obviously needs to be done is somehow you need to get leaders of science, of industry, the people with all the political clout and money. You need to get a core of them to advocate, as they do in the United States, to push for a change in how you fund science. Because they know that if their companies are going to be successful, they can't, just do the same thing they've always been doing. And they need good science, and they need good engineering from the universities. And in the United States, that business community has been very important for getting the government to do the right thing in science. And what happened in the United States, there are a few very wise and devoted leaders of industry. The CEO of Lockheed Martin, Norman Augustine, for example, I've worked with him for years. He organizes the other CEOs, and they come and visit Congress, in your case, visit Parliament, and speak about how Indonesia can be an innovation nation, but not if they don't allow or encourage science to prosper in this country. So anyway, we spent a lot of time, and he's spending more time now trying to get a new experiment called Dippy going. And we had 2016, it looked like we were going to get it going, and then everything collapsed. And so that experiment needs to be reinvigorated, and we need a new way of trying to get science supported, but by the government and by industry. And the young scientists produced that wonderful report, SANES 45, and I mean it's time to update that report. So one device is for the harness the young scientists to produce the next version of the SANES 45 and use that as a basis for bringing in politicians, industry, whatever. But I'm hearing the same thing from politicians that I heard 10 years ago about wanting to be an innovation nation, but they haven't done their part. And you should really comment on that because you're the expert. Yeah.
Okay, so Bapak Ibu sekalian, I think the introduction from Pak Bruce, basically it's what we need is a scientific temper. What that really mean, scientific temper? Because Pak Bruce was here 10 years ago, and we expecting that the science improve a lot after he was here for 10 years ago. But in fact, what he saw, that so many failures, not success. This funding for science research is diminishing, and many other things that what he said. So his story about what the American have been on scientific front is that his modeling of how the American immigrant come to US and then start building the Envoy, and they start coming to the community college, right? Not to university, not to big university, but to community college, and they start understanding what American is look like. So what his really big issue is how this scientific enterprise, because now that at his university there are many big companies coming to universities, so it's enterprising research, right? Research enterprise or scientific enterprise.
So what's new in the United States University since I came here first in 2010 is a big push to encourage students to come up with their own ideas and try to form small little company with their own ideas. And major universities like my university, University of California, Berkeley, University of California, San Francisco, Stanford University, they all have special programs where they're encouraging students, or postdoctoral fellows, or young faculty come together with a new idea of how they might be able to use science to develop something practical and start something that would be useful to the economy, to invent something that would really make a difference for people's lives. And we have a system where now they collect ideas, and different groups of young people submit their ideas to a panel of experts. And the experts are not just scientists, they're people who have startup companies, the venture capitalists, people who understand, what might actually work. I'd be terrible at this because I know nothing about making money. I can only lose money. And those people judge and pick groups of young people, and they give them some money to go work together to try to develop the idea. And in fact, at UCSF, there's space right on the campus they could use, little laboratories that they could use to try to work together to develop the idea. So this is very new in the United States because in the old days, the universities and the private sector were separate. And now there's a real attempt to help students understand the private sector. Those students who want to try to do something in the private sector, they can hopefully think about getting some experience and some small support to try their idea. Now, so I just heard on YouTube there was a hour or so interview of your Minister of Education and the Minister of Education from the Netherlands. There's new Minister of Education from the Netherlands is Robert Dijkgraaf, who I know very well. He was the president of the Netherlands Academy of Sciences. And then he's a very distinguished physicist. Yeah. Sorry?
Your mic.
Oh, he's a very distinguished physicist. And they have go to YouTube, you can see this wonderful discussion they had for 1 hour. And your Minister of Education is talking, he says all the right things. I don't know if this is he wants the universities to innovate, be different. And so this may be an opportunity to get new experiments going at the University of Indonesia and elsewhere. At least, there's a realization that to make Indonesia more innovative, the universities need to be more flexible and ambitious about how they provide opportunities for students and what the students can do, not just sit in a course, but do other things that might lead to them to become productive, both in private sector and so on. And at any rate, it seems like the system wants innovation from universities. I don't know whether that's just talk or whether they're going to give you some money to do this. But you could tell me that.
Yeah. So Bruce, you mentioned that the first thing first, in order to improve science in Indonesia, is a budget, right?
Yeah.
Funding.
Yeah.
Currently in Indonesia, it's impossible to have that improve the budget or improve the science. What do you think? Is that improve budget first or improve science first and getting the budget?
Well, the level of government money that's put into research is very low compared to other countries. On the other hand, if you're funding research so poorly with the 1 year, 1 year grant and top-down management of the research, you don't get very much out of it. So, an obvious way to change out of the system is let experiments be done with new kinds of grants, like Dippy wants to do, and then see what happens. Because I expect that if you have a different kind of funding mechanism, the science will be different and more productive. So, it's hard to argue that the government should just put more money in the same 1 year grant top-down management way that they've been funding science, because it's not going to give very good results. So I think, what would make sense to me is a big experiment where you try a different way of funding science and then see how it works. And DIPI is, of course, DIPI still exists. It's set up to do that. We did a whole competitive review in 2016. In 2016, it looks like DIPI was going to be really successful. They put out a call for proposals in 2 areas, life science and medicine. That was one panel. They had like 260 applications. And then there was a second panel, culture and social science, and they had a lot of applications. And we had reviewers from all over the world. We had like 70 reviewers from the United States. Anyway, we had a system going which actually was a great example of how you could do an experiment to see giving 3-year grants with flexibility, allow you to buy some equipment if you need it. All these things that's not allowed in the standard Indonesian thing. And then the Indonesian government stopped funding it and pulled back. So they almost did a good experiment, but then they failed. So that's what I mean by a failed experiment. We put a lot of energy. We were, it's the Australians, the World Bank, the United States. Ambassador Blake at the time was very much in favor of this experiment. But basically, the experiment was rejected eventually it was sort of rejected as too different. I don't know, you tell me. And the Indonesian government stopped. So, that was very disappointing. And so that's still a worthwhile goal, but we have to try to get it to happen by some different I don't know, what is the way in which we can get Indonesia to recognize that if they want to be an innovation nation, as they've been saying for 10 years at least, they have to fund science in a different way. And, what's good, the good news is you have a lot of talented young students and, you have all this potential human capital, but you can't use it. But if your best student wants to go and be a young researcher, and they have to only get a 1-year grant and only do what the government says they must do, and publish one paper the first year. It's just the best way not to do science. So I said this, maybe what we should do is, rather than have a report about how to do science well, do a report how not to do science. A little paper about why funding science the way you do now does not work. And it's just so frustrating to see that so many outstanding young scientists want to contribute to the country. The country wants innovation, but somehow the older people are stopping it from happening.
So what happened is that last night, Prof. Bruce Albrecht met with DG Dikti, Professor Nizam. So we discussed about research and why is failures and so on and so on. So he got information about only 1 year at the time for any research and funding, and with the output is 1 paper. What he said that is impossible, right? 1 year they can get good paper for a science, journal science, for example. So what he was thinking about is that we need to do more not top-down research, but should be allowing companies to be in university and working together with the researcher to get even to the student startup student to allow them to also to do many different things. So I think what he frustrated from the science improvement in Indonesia is that the way that the funding for science is a very small, too small in fact, and then too short because it's procurement model, which is every year you have to report it. And the complaint is that many of the researchers just doing the administration works and so on and so on. So he captured that idea, and then what he's proposing to improve that. So do you have any proposal to improve that model? Because right now it seems to me that when you give it to only 1 year and then you're not allowed to fail, right? Because if you fail, you have to return the money. That was not science, right? Because science should be fair, you know? Maybe fail. The first time, fail, it doesn't matter. The second time, fail, it doesn't matter. So maybe the third time will be successful. Maybe, I don't know. That's the science, what Bruce mentioned last night. So, you know, although there has been so many, especially what Director General said, that allow only a very little money for the whole university in compared to the Kementerian or Minister and many others. So the docent basically is a very small money to do research. So that, what do you thinking about that, you know, Bruce, to improve?
So I think you people have to design a strategy and could build it off young scientists, because I think they have more. Young scientists are the future. So they have in every country where there's been a young academy. The young academy was first started in Germany. They're very surprised that their politicians want to listen to the young scientists, not to the old scientists. So there's an opportunity through that process. In the I think in the U.S. Embassy, there's a new young person who's a science counselor. We had her there today, and we met with her in Yogyakarta. You know, she can bring all kinds of experts to interact with you initially by Zoom. I mean, we have a new way of communicating thanks to the pandemic. Everybody's comfortable using Zoom, so she could help bring people you want to talk to who've done things that you might want to think about at your university. People from the United States to talk to you initially by Zoom, and try to develop. You people have to develop a plan, but it can be supported by outside experts very easily. There's a lot of very goodwill. I mean, scientists are used to doing things without pay. We all referee papers and review, for tenure. The scientists are used to contributing to the community for no money. And so now that we could do things by Zoom, which doesn't cost any money, we could get all this free support and advice. Eventually, some of them may come. So you could imagine some, massive public relations thing that you might do down the road, where you bring Nobel Prize winners and leaders of American industry and all those things to interact with your politicians. But you have to develop the ideas. And because we have all this goodwill and connections across the world between scientists, not only in the U.S., of course, in many other countries. Robert Dijkgraaf was here as a distinguished scientist from the Netherlands, and I'm sure he's got the same interests that I have in trying to help. But but many countries would be willing to try to help you by using new communications methods like Zoom to start with and see how it develops. But we need the initiatives to come from Indonesia. You know, it's really your future. It's not our future, especially the future of young people. So, you know, I hope that the universities will unleash a lot of creativity from your young faculty and students and try to get energy to improve the system from them, because you know the way we've been doing it, older people trying to change the system has not worked.
Thank you, Bruce. So I would like to open the question from the audience. If any want to share what really concerned about the science in Indonesia, or whether that have to be improved. And so, you know, Bruce is really experienced as a scientist, as an envoy in the government, as a editor of the Journal of Science, and so on and so on. So I think this is really opportunity if you want to ask something to publish. Yes, please. Anybody? Pak Dede. And then I see the ladies there. Ada yang mau? Ya? Ya. Pak Dede.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Jatna. Okay, thank you, Professor Bruce. Yeah. Just you mentioned, I have some summary for point. Yeah, about to increasing some contribution science in Indonesia. First the budget. Yeah, budget, and second the infestation of the young scientists. Okay, three, the supporting government for science. Yeah, maybe for Prof. Jatna know about the grant. Yeah, the budget from Minister of Education is small. Yeah, and then maybe the supporting the industry on the enterprises to university. Yeah. Maybe how about the experience in the USA, like MIT, San Francisco, but about the enterprises maybe like in the Korea, yeah, Korea like Samsung, yeah, because some industry, yeah, some enterprise to supporting to university. Maybe Bruce Albert maybe have some experience how to increasing increasing the some research, to increasing research, the young young scientists investation in the university. Yeah, according to my country, yeah, we have the some higher education and brain, yeah, but in the as you know, every year we can get the some grant only 1 year to get the published one paper. Yeah, this is the problem. Yeah, this is the problem, I think. Yeah, because the system in Indonesia like to, yeah, we must to get the quickly access, yeah, but not supporting to sustainable the science. Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe the my question about the experience Professor Bruce Albert in the USA or the other country, how to maybe manage the some supporting the industrial enterprises in the two university. Okay, thank you, Professor. Okay, thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
So I'm not talking about big companies. These are small companies. Yeah. So one thing we did at UCSF, we made it possible for students to go for 3 months while they're a student. They went for 3 months to work in a biotech company or some other. So we created a special program for students who wanted to know more about the private sector, because at least in the past, the university faculty like me didn't know anything about how to advise students if they wanted to do something in biotechnology or the private sector. So we had a program for about, I think, 5 years where students were who wanted to could go take 3 months off. Usually it was near the end of their degree, to go work in a biotech company, and then come back. They had to come and give a talk to all the other students about what is it like, what is it like to work in private sector? Because the American academic system initially was totally separate from private sector, and the faculty like me could not give any advice to young students who wanted to know how they could contribute by working in a private industry. So many, I don't know anything about the Indonesian opportunities here, but many of the companies around my university are very small companies. They have 10 people, 10 scientists. They're just trying to find out whether they can create something. And if the small company makes some progress, and maybe a bigger company would buy them or whatever. But the whole idea is to make sure that your students, if they want to, can know what the private sector is like. And of course, that means the private sector could more understand what the university is like. And that kind of program could, be a way of starting. In the case of UCSF, the biotech companies were happy to pay the students for 3 months to come, because it's a way of them finding new people to hire. In the end, if they like them, then they might offer them a job. But the basic idea would be to create some information exchange between what it's really like to be in the university and what it's really like to be in the private sector, and try to create some kind of understanding. Because initially in the United States, they were completely separate, and the students had no way of really making plans for the future. They didn't know whether they wanted to be in the private sector or not. They didn't even know what it was like. So would that work in Indonesia? I don't know. But what I could do, what's easy for me to do, is connect people who are interested with people in the United States who set up those programs, and you could have a Zoom with them. And it's very easy and they can send you somebody. So there's a lot of experience with doing experiments at universities to try to connect the university students with private sector.
Is it possible that the dean can go to your university to understand how that really works?
Yeah.
So that opportunity, Pak
Yeah.
Dekan, for
It's a long
visit.
way, long flight. I could tell you.
Otherwise, using the Zoom maybe it's cheaper.
Start by Zoom.
We can start by Zoom, asking how that the way.
So the thing is, if you have connections to send me an email, we could start that way. But I don't know a lot of things, but whatever question you ask, I know somebody else who knows. So it's easy. I mean, the new communication makes it so different. The old days, I've been for years having 1 hour Zooms with Sangat Marzuki every month or so. 20 years ago, it cost me $2,000 to just have a connection like that. But now it's free. So
Yeah.
crazy.
I think that's the ladies in behind that one.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, hello. First of all, thank you for Professor Bruce and Professor Jatna for your presence in this fine afternoon and discussing this wonderful topic about science development in Indonesia. And after hearing this inspirational discussion, I came to the conclusion that the problem of improving science in Indonesia is budget and its people interest for science. And so, while the progress are to be made for both of the problem to be solved, my question is, how do we as a future scientists do? What are the first important things we must do while we wait for an improvement in these problems, these budgets and its people interest problem being solved in Indonesia? I hope that my question is clear enough. Thank you.
I have a hard time with the microphone and the mask. Maybe you could repeat the question. What was a young scientist? Yeah. Okay. Well, I would hope that the university would support you forming a new group. It's been wonderful to see young people in the United States, the graduate students. They formed little groups on science education. I'm talking about my university. A group on science policy. I would encourage young people to take initiative and try to find other people who have your same interest, and then try to develop ideas from there. And hopefully your university would support you in that, or they would listen to you. I mean, what's really frustrating is that so often the people making decisions don't really know what's happening, down in the real world of. I'm a big supporter of teachers in our schools, right? The teachers in our schools actually know what they need to give a better education to young students. I'm talking about, teachers before college, and nobody listens to this. So I tried very hard to create a teacher voice. When I was at the academy, we had a special committee of the best teachers to try to give the academy advice on how they could do better job in supporting education. And just as a general rule, we need to hear from the people who actually understand what's going on. The students know what life is like for students and what the world looks like for you. And one person is hard to. You have to organize a small group of people, and then create some short document and try to create a force for improvement from the students. I mean, I was saying in the car, I was invited by the students in the Netherlands at the University of Utrecht. The students got to invite one guest every year, so I went maybe 5 years ago. So impressed how the Dutch system empowers young students, much more than even the United States. After they teach, after every course at the University of Utrecht, they have a little committee that includes a couple of students and some faculty to discuss, was that course well done? How could it be improved? And when the students are unhappy about the teacher, the university changes it. They fix it. So to make a good system, you need to have receptive leadership to the young people who are actually doing whatever it is, teaching young students or taking, trying to develop a science career. There's no other way to create a good system than that you have to listen to the people who actually are experiencing it. So hopefully you could take some initiative and find some friends and start to see if you could. This is a way you develop to be a leader. I mean, eventually you can't be a leader without trying. and this is a way to develop leadership and innovation. So, I hope the society would support that kind of thing as they do in the Netherlands. And we try to do some in the United States. Of course, a lot of older people, don't want to listen to younger people. So I hope it's different in Indonesia.
Yes, thank you, Professor Bruce, for your answer.
Thank you. Any others?
Thank you, Professor Alberts and Professor Supriatna for the previous talk. So it's maybe like a follow-up question to my my friend's previous questions. Regarding the budget and the funding, right? I mean, it's like completely relying on the government. I think it's not like the best way to get funding, especially in today's Indonesia. But I just want to ask you: is there like a way to gather funds or grants in the United States, but not from the government, but from the private sectors? Is there like a possible way for us to get pretty much like the money we need in order to make something maybe like in order to help them develop their products or anything like that? I don't really mind even if I have like to start a company and then sell my part of my stocks to them just so that I can gather some funds. Is there like a way in the United States to be able to do that? And if I may, to ask you a second question, it's more of a technical question though. I don't know. I think you are acquainted with the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. It's like it's a private institution, but I was just wondering, like, they are a not-for-profit institution, yet they are able to produce like this Nobel Prize winners and like some brilliant researches. And I just want to know how did they manage to do that, being a not-for-profit organization, yet they are able to gather their own funds. Something like that. So, thank you, Professor Albert.
So this is a great question. So there's a whole enterprise of people in the United States who want to start and encourage new companies, and we call it venture capitalists. I don't know whether you have venture capitalists in the United. You have, yeah. So it's some of them that decided this would be an interesting idea, a way to get new ideas that they might support. So the money for the initial start of this project, some of it came from the university and some of it came from venture capitalists. It's not huge money. I mean, it's the space was free from the university, and it's, at any rate, right now, after about, I think, 8 years or so, the university takes some of the successful companies that came out of this, and they have an arrangement where they get money back. So the system is now working well enough so that they don't need to get new money from outside. Some of their successful companies that founded through the efforts of the university have now given money back. Once they were successful, they had some I don't know the details, but they had some obligation to put money back into the system if they worked. If they failed, then they didn't have to do anything, only if they worked. So that system has been able to generate enough resources after a while to keep going. And again, if, I was not involved in this directly, but my friend was very much involved. So we can connect by Zoom to people who know the details of how to make it work. But there is it's not only my university; other universities have got this to work as well. So it's relatively new. I mean, 20 years ago we didn't do this, but yeah, it just seems like the kind of thing that Indonesia might benefit from, because of you always want to get innovation, and how do we get innovation? And so you want to try some new things. You want to try something that's different.
Yes, okay. Pak Budiawan.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. Very nice topic that we have discussed today. Professor Bruce, I think I have heard that you just mentioned that you have a lot of experience during your stay in Indonesia, right? So I mean, I have a simple question about that. You mentioned that Indonesia, I mean, the funding research in Indonesia is very small, yeah. And the second, also the timeline or for the research, yeah, just only 1 year and then should be published in the sense. I think this is a big question for me. How do you think about that? And how is the, your suggestion for the scientists for Indonesia? I mean, because the funding and also the timelines. And the other question is, as we know that Indonesia have bigger natural resources, yeah? But I don't know exactly. Have you read about the roadmap national research in Indonesia? What they have the goal about this, and what do you suggest about that? This is work or not? Because if we talking about, we should have the joint research with a private sector or private company. I think the private company they don't have the research and development in this laboratory and this the company, because they just use the natural resources directly from Indonesian and then to explore and then give the products. There's no basic research in this case. So what do you suggest about that? And the other question also, what is the priority? Should we first choose the funding research, the fundamental research, or research entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurship research? So what do you think about that? What do you suggest about based on your experience in Indonesia? Thank you very much.
The ideas that come out of the university, they're not ready for a product right away. It generally takes years. The basic ideas, I understand that you develop ideas and then you test them, and then you get closer. You're not making a product. You're just getting closer to the idea of being a product, and then at some point you attract the venture capitalists to make a major investment in it. I mean, there's no way you can make, generally, if you start something from the university, it takes 10 years or so to produce something that is actually going to make a lot of money. But first what happens is that some small company gets interested in the idea, and they put more resources into it. But so the initial, again, I'm not the expert, but the initial idea is that you give young people enough years, like 2 or 3 years, to develop something to see whether some other, a small company would like to take it and put more resources in it. But the university does not make a product. We don't know how to. I mean, university faculty are not good at making products. We don't know that. We're just trying to create ideas and opportunities that then can be very promising and taken over by other people. Eventually, they get enough capital to actually make a successful product. So, but again, all I'm saying is that I know this is working at my university and others, but I'm not the expert. So we need to get you connected to the people who are really experts. So I just think it's a interesting idea that would sort of open up the university to new opportunities and make students more able to think about new ways of contributing to Indonesia in the future. Yeah.
Oke Pak, masih ada kurang?
Jadi ya mungkin kita ingin suggest dia lah dengan roadmap kita dalam konteks national research roadmap itu kayak apa sih? Karena kita nggak jelas tujuannya kemana itu.
Ya.
Itu. Tolong ditanyakan langsung lah gitu. Terima kasih.
Ya. Oke, Pak Al-Hadi.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Prof. Jatna, Prof. Albert. I'm Al-Hadi, coming from Department of Mathematics. So, in our research roadmap, sometimes we have many barrier difficulties to get a grant research if we only use mathematics as our domain research. So we need to collaborate with other discipline. For example, for me, we collaborate with the Department of Biology, with the Faculty of Medicine, and so on. So we apply the research grant based on their problem. So for like me, we doing like computational mathematics applied in, for example, in biology, we using bioinformatics, or for Faculty of Medicine using artificial intelligence, something like that. So sometimes we are mathematics. We think that mathematics is not considered as science. So we will be considered if we collaborate with others. So I want to know what in your perspective in USA. I get an opportunity in 2018 visiting MIT regarding our research about artificial intelligence. So we saw in MIT they are make ecosystem research. So everybody collaborate and take their part. So I think in Indonesia we have still challenging about this, how to make ecosystem in our, to make project progress in our research. That is the question is, we are mathematicians still consider our research is not part of science if we collaborate with others. Yeah.
So, I have a hard time understanding with the microphone, so I need to, yeah. Yes, Matt, Lots of opportunities. Yeah. We write a cell biology textbook every few years, and what we've discovered, not we, I mean the community of scientists has discovered, is that life depends on such a complex network of interactions that even when we know everything about who's interacting with what? What's the rate it's too complicated for the human brain to make sense of it, So we call those things emergent properties, right? The physicists that invented this thing, emergent properties. When you get enough complicated things interacting, then the result is different from the sum of all the little parts. So the simplest way to think about this to make people understand is that, the human brain is, a connection of billions of neurons organized in all kinds of ways. An emergent property is human consciousness that so that's a completely different thing than the material from which it's made. And of course, we don't understand it. At the same way, just take how a cell works. The simplest cell that we've been able to make by engineering has something like 450 essential genes. You need 450. It's a small bacteria mycoplasma, that they engineered to take out more and more genes until it stopped growing. And so it needed like 450 genes. And what they were shocked to find is about 1/3 of those genes, and we didn't even know what they do. Okay, so this is the simplest cell. We are much more complicated. So I've been talking a lot. This is science. It's not science policy. We need new ways of analyzing complexity that enable us to understand what the cell is doing, right? What is happening here? Why is this thing alive? This interaction of 450 things, it's self-reproducing and growing, but we don't understand it well enough. You only understand when we can predict if we change one thing, what will happen. We can't do that. Yeah. So we're still very far from adequately understanding even the very simplest living cell. And so there's a huge amount of opportunity for some very innovative mathematician, computer scientists to try to develop new ways of analyzing, not the whole cell is too complicated, but start with little pieces. And so there's a really a major need for people who are not biologists to help us eventually make sense of all this complexity. The emergent property of the cell biology would be a cell moves in a direction. That's an emergent property from all these different interactions. We know in general what's needed for it, but we can't compute it yet. It's too complicated. So there's a big need for new innovation in computation, mathematics. The one approach has been used is something called agent-based modeling. Where you don't actually write an equation, you just let all the things run around on a computer. And that can be done for small bits of the cell, but not for big bits of the cell. So I don't know what the right answer is, but we need much deeper understanding. We don't have the tools yet from mathematics and computation to really understand all that stuff that's in our textbook. We could explain it, but we don't really understand how it creates the big thing of just as we don't understand how the human brain creates human consciousness. So it's a wonderful challenge for young people. When we write a textbook, we worry that students will think we know most of what we need to know, but we keep on saying we only understand 10% of what we need to understand. We might know 50% because we have all these facts and pieces DNA sequences, protein structures, but what does that all mean? It's a big challenge still, and we need new people to work on this. Way back in there.
Question? Yeah. I think two more.
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
that, let's finish.
Okay.
Silakan, Pak.
Yeah. Thank you.
We have to get a microphone. Where's the? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Albert. It's very interesting that you say the future face of science in Indonesia is in the hand of the young scientists,
Yeah.
which is maybe many of them right now is still in the first or second year as a student in the faculty, in the university. And we hope that they don't face difficulties like what they are lecture facing right now in the future. We hope that the policy will be different in their time. However, I'm still have a positive thinking that maybe in the future the policy will be different, and how to prepare this future young scientists to be a scientist, because for example in mathematics, not so many our students would like to join science after they graduate. They mostly want to get work as soon as possible to earn money. This is a problem that we are facing in mathematics, because and also in your experience, maybe how do you encourage first or second year students to be more, to give more love to science, to do science? Because in my experience, these students, for young scientists, when we collect them as a group and then give them some problems in the class, sometimes they give us a solution which is out of the box. They give us something that we really unexpect that solution coming from them. But however, in my experience, it's only in the third or fourth year students. We really want to that they can do that maybe in the second year student. In your experience, how maybe to develop this culture in the young science? Thank you.
Well, of course, having a better system of funding so that young scientists could do more interesting work will help. It just reminded me of the fact that I found some old letters that I wrote when I was undergraduate. And my first time in the lab, I had a whole summer in a laboratory. Yes, I must have been 20 years old, something like that. And I said, I really thought I couldn't be, all the experiments were not working. Nothing was working. So I said, I think I might want to be a scientist, but maybe a theoretical chemist or something that didn't need to do these horrible experiments that were not working. What really makes a scientist is the first time you have an experiment that works, then you believe you're a scientist, and the experiment that works has to be something that you helped to design, not what you were told to do, right? So the way to get young scientists to want to do science is given an opportunity to be successful, not by doing just what you told them to do, because that doesn't help. To give them a chance to invent something and then make it work, and that's when you make a scientist. So that same summer, suddenly my experiment started working. It changed my whole mind about what I wanted to do. But I saw that over and over with my graduate students. They could, until they made something happen that they had made themselves, then they became a scientist. But you have to give them enough opportunity to use their own idea and make it work. Because if you tell them to do this and that and it works, it's not the same. Completely different. Yeah. So So obviously, part of the problem is the way you support your science. If your laboratory was free to try new things, and the students could try new things, and you had support to help them try things, then that will make more scientists. So it's a feedback system that you need to get going. And I love that question because, you know, everything depends on everything else. If you don't have a system that allows students to try things and that are interesting, you have no resources. You have to, your students will have to do something that you promised to the ministry. You know, there's no way to be creative and no way to create really exciting young scientists. So, you know, not everybody should be a scientist, but everybody should have a chance to discover where they can get excited about being a scientist. Yeah.
Thank you.
Back, you've been waiting a long time. Hey, we finally got you a microphone.
Thank you, sir.
My problem is my hearing is not too good, and the microphone
Okay, sorry.
clips things, so I have a hard time. I understood you though. That was good.
Okay, good afternoon, Prof. Bruce Albert, Prof. Jatna, and all my lecturers and all audition. Thank you for your brilliant insight. I have a question. Did America have any case where research is required to be complete within a certain periods of time, and it's constrained by research funding? And how do the research deal with it? And I hope my question is clear. Thank you.
Maksudnya apa saja? Not sure. Maksudnya apa tadi itu? Oh, time frame only 1 year, ya. So.
Yeah. Are you
Should I repeat again?
Yeah.
Maksudnya apa ya tadi itu?
Apakah Amerika itu memiliki permasalahan apa risetnya itu harus diselesaikan dalam kurun waktu tertentu, lalu dicekat terhadap permasalahan fundingnya, Pak, gitu? Saya pertanyakan.
So research grants in the United States are for young scientists are for 3 years, and then they become for 5 years. So that's one thing. You have 3 years to do something. The other thing is very important that you can spend the money in a different way than what you said in the application. So all you have to do is explain to the person who is managing the grant, and the people who manage the grants are scientists. So the scientists, you know, can understand that you're going to change your plan because what you thought at first was going to be your plan won't work, or it's not a good idea, and now you have a new idea that's going to be better. And so you don't have to actually do what you propose to do. Just you have to explain every year when you have, say you have a 3-year grant. At the end of 1 year, you have to say, here's what I've done. So you don't have to publish a paper. You just have to send a report. Here's what I did the first year. And in general, it's fine. You just explain that, you know, you made a little progress or you didn't make any progress because, you know, your idea was wrong. You have a 3-year period to try to develop something that does work. You know, if you take no risks, you can't ever do anything important. If you only do what you're certain will work, then you won't discover anything because you already knew it would work. So, you know, this is what I said is, you know, talking to all these young scientists as I've been doing since I was here a week ago. You know, it's, you know, maybe we should get a bunch of young scientists to produce a little document how not to fund science and why what you're doing is making a huge mistake. You know, I don't think people understand how science works. The people who are, you know, the people who are looking at your grant are or don't know any science, I guess. They want to make sure you only spend the money on exactly what you said you would do, but you can't do science that way. So you need more flexibility, much more flexibility in the funding. And, there are people who get a grant for 3 years, and after half a year they decide that what they thought they were going to do didn't make any sense, so they do something else. And they just have to justify doing something else to the person at the funding agent. And again, the person at the funding agent is a scientist, not a accountant. And so that scientist, they have some question about, does this really make sense? They ask some experts. So in general, your grant keeps going for 3 years, even if you don't publish anything. At the end of that time, you want to get a new grant, people expect you to have done something. Anyway, so we don't have any. I don't think there are any 1-year grants. I never heard of one. Because we recognize it takes time to do something important. And if you want to try something that's new, you can't finish it in 1 year.
Okay, so what I think I have to summarize this is, I think that's is already almost 5. But what Bruce mentioned is important, that in US there is no 1 year grant. At least 3 years grant, 3 to 5 years grant. And if you don't success, you can ask for changes the title, and you cannot do that here, because if you fail, you have to return it, the money, right? The second one is very flexible, because the head of the trust fund is a scientist. If you are in biological sciences, all the scientists in biology, they will consider you want to change the title, you want to change this chemical and whatever. And here, you cannot do that too. We are so restricted, so that when you have proposed this, then you have to buy that one, right? You cannot change the machine, the chemical, and so on and so on. What he said is that in Indonesia, if you want to do science, because science is unpredictable, sometimes you need to be flexible. And that's why what he said is that really Indonesia need innovation. They stated that we're going to be innovation state, but the funding said you're not trying to be innovation.
Yes. You must not be innovative. It's
You
not
must
allowed.
be innovative. Because you're not allowed to innovate. Because with 1 year, it's like pengadaan, it's impossible. And then the docent, especially, you have to manage all the expenses, and even don't have any salary to do that. That's really, it's very difficult. So what he said, that he was trying to get this all the international to push, maybe trying to get network and international donor and so on outside. That's right now, it's everywhere, 1,000 donors in global. And I think we really need to, with the digitalization and everything, it's easier for us to find funding outside. But I think from Bruce is talking with the Director General, we're talking with Bapanas, talking with any other government of Indonesia, even with LPDP today. So basically, LPDP said, no, we are not restricted. We are not restriction on this funding. So it's a dicty, maybe we have to change that. So last night, we were also talking with the Director General of Higher Education, I always said we'll have to change. Of course, we have to change because otherwise there will be no innovation. What Pak Bruce said. If we keep doing this, don't dream to be innovative.
The no innovation allowed nation.
So I think that's really, Pak Bruce. Do you want to have one message for that?
Well, I think young people need to do things, and I like the idea of you organizing and trying to create movement, even with among students, to get involved. You know, it's your future. The future of Indonesia is for the young people, so people need to listen to you. And
Yeah.
so-
I like you mentioned that the people have to listen to young people, to young scientists. I like that because I don't think that here is young scientists be heard by decision maker. You know, that's really the goods, because in US they said that young scientists can make the differences. I think this is really good. How do we do that? I think depend on Pak Dekan. How do we make this movement or something? You know, young scientists to be more active and
yeah, more aggressive.
aggressive.
You have to scare all the old scientists.
I think that's really from our discussion. Thank you very much for Pak Bruce Albert to share what he's thinking about. Pak Bruce, I think, you know, 5 days in Jogja, he was really excited with the young scientists. He said that the future of Indonesia is depend on young scientists. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Jatna and Prof. Bruce Albert, for the insightful and inspiring talk today. Maybe we can have many things to evaluate to improve our science in Indonesia. Thank you very much. And for Prof. Albert, will you stay remain in the front of us? And I would like to invite Bapak Dede Djuhana, Ph.D., to present the token of appreciation from Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Universitas Indonesia.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, let's give a big applause to our honorable speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the 7th MIPAtalk series season 3, which probably means please forgive us for our shortcomings. And may all of you always safe and healthy. Allow me, as a master of ceremony, apologize for any mistakes. Have a nice Monday. Thank you. We'll see you again in the next MIPAtalk series. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.